Hello everybody, it's me, I'm alive. It's been a crazy day with tremendous flooding. Tremendous is a bad word to use. And I'm here live, but I'm going to shut my face down because you don't need to see my face. Not at all. But we're going to talk about what's going on in the world. This is very late, but I've promised you a video every day for 4 years and I will not let you down. I lost internet today. It's been a rough day, but I'm going to make it happen. It's been a crazy day. I hope everything's still working, by the way. With tremendous... thank you all for coming. This is not my setup. This is not my computer. This is not my nothing. But I had to scramble for internet like... I won't say what it's like. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Let's get into the story. I'll make this very fast. And this is like a prison cell. It's not like a doomsday bunker. And I don't have my setup, so we'll try and make it work. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Let's get into it. Not financial advice. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. And let's get into the news. First of all, let me see if this is even streaming because I honestly do not know. Let me see. I can't even tell. Hopefully it is. A little delay. I gotta track everything. And thank you, TND Sessa, for coming here today. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. This actually took me by surprise. This is on-chain data from Glassnode. And what's crazy about this is, we thought, like a lot of my audience is from Europe, places like UK, Netherlands, Spain, Czech Republic, Romania. But this is ultra bizarre. This is a retail-driven on-chain activity, and by region. They have US, they have APAC, Asia Pacific, and EU. And the supply changed since late 2021. And basically, retail-driven on-chain activity in the APAC has been growing at a faster rate compared to US and EU. And since the cycle low in November, December 2022, remember those dark times? Well, APAC's year-over-year Bitcoin supply growth stands at 6.4% plus, while US and EU have seen down minus 5.7% and 0.7% respectively. So it's kind of crazy that that's happened. Now, let's jump into some more stuff because I want to always look at what the whales are doing because they are the money makers, and we saw some big changes in Tabby over the last 24 hours. But this is fun. Shout out to Vivek. Whales are buying Bitcoin like never before. Something is coming big time. Now, I would zoom out, but you don't. Oh, fuck it. Oh. Yeah, it's me. I'm still here. But anyway, I'm like a prison cell with internet and some random computer. But the point is, who are the whales? I have a theory on those, but we'll get back to that in a minute, in a few seconds. But if we look at this, institutional traders, institutions, not retail, institutions, they are more bullish in 2025 than they were in 2024. So in the past, if you look at institutional traders, not retail, but the money managers, I have no plans to trade crypto. It was 78% in 2024. Today it's 71%. Shout out to Sanjay as well, if he's there. In 2024, I plan to trade crypto. 12%. Now it's 16%. These are the money runners. And I'm currently trading crypto digital coins, went from 9% to 13%. Everything is up, plans for 2025. I don't know how reliable this survey is, but everything's up, so that's positive. Now, shout out to Dan Moorhead from Pantera. He believes the United States needs to move over ASAP to digital gold, which is Bitcoin. He wants Bitcoin pivot. And the US owns $600 billion in gold. It's time to get digital. So we'll see. There are some stories. I've read the tea leaves of what Michael Saylor and all the other advisors like David Sachs are telling the current president. I think a strategic Bitcoin reserve will come, but we'll get more to that in a minute. In addition, new investors in Bitcoin. This is a crypto quant chart. I nearly said Glassnode. Whoops. New investors. The chart actually says AXEL. The chart illustrates the ratio of new to old Bitcoin supply between 1 week to 6 months and 6 months to 12 months, where high value indicates the influx of new investors to Bitcoin. And you can see basically middle 2024, a ton of new investors, and early 2025, a ton of new investors. Now, I personally think this is all MicroStrategy and BlackRock IBIT, but I could be wrong, but I follow the money and I think I'm right. So they're not new investors, they are big whales and people that represent big money. And we know for a fact, by the way, that there are a lot of big players stacking out there in the marketplace. In fact, places like the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Norway, guess what they're stacking? Not Bitcoin. They are buying MicroStrategy. We'll talk about MicroStrategy in a minute too. Thank you, T.S. Pun, and before I forget, Living Like a Panda. Good to see you again, DBF 430. It's so good when I stream late, I get Asia and Australia. This is for you all. If you are in Asia, Australia, or Southern Hemisphere, or a different time zone, this is for you. Let's go. Let's get into more stuff. The next piece of on-chain data is retail is not stacking, but whales are. For the first time in history, you can see it. This is an interesting stat. While retail are not buying Bitcoin, whales are buying Bitcoin. But guess what retail are buying? It's very interesting. Again, a chart from Glassnode. Retail investors, for the first time ever, have stacked more Solana than they have stacked Ethereum. And that's a piece of record here. So again, retail are not chasing and Bitcoin, and this could be due to the unit bias, because retail investors, they see Bitcoin at $100,000 or $92,000. They say, ugh, it's too expensive. But they find a $200 or $160 asset or $10 asset much more palatable. That's called a unit bias. So that's probably what's happening here. But for Solana to eclipse Ethereum is also interesting, because Ethereum is what, $2,000 and Solana's $200. So again, it works in the favor of retail. Anyway, let's get to the story of today. This is a guy called Grant Cardone who had a lot of real estate in Florida, and he sold it to buy Bitcoin. And he's a realtor, real estate guy. Shout out to all the realtors out there. And he predicts Bitcoin has an 843% upside, and he claims it will replace gold as an alternative to savings accounts, US Treasuries, and whatnot. I don't remember the full article, but I do remember he believes Bitcoin could hit 180,000 in 2025, 300,000 within 36 months. He's one of those believers that there is no bear market. 600,000 at 60 months, which is 5 years, I think, and $1 million in 72 months, he stated. So yeah, that's interesting. And people think Grant is a fool, but you know, if you've made crazy money, you can't be considered a fool. So he's pivoting. He made all his money from real estate. Now he's pivoting to Bitcoin hard. So maybe there's a lesson there somewhere. We'll see who has the last laugh. And STRK, I'll talk a bit about MicroStrategy here. STRK stock is out sooner than normal. It launched today, their preferred stock that pays a 10% dividend. And launched, and people are confusing STRK with MicroStrategy. It's not. It's a preferred stock. It's a completely different item. It was supposed to be out at the end of this month, and it just launched today, which is big news. Anyway, a lot of people will buy that because they like dividends, and that will make it, be another avenue of financial jiu-jitsu for MicroStrategy. Now, let's talk about the Czechs for a second. And they love their Bitcoin. I've been talking about how the Czech National Bank, which is their central bank, they want to stack Bitcoin. But now the Czech president signed a law removing capital gains tax on Bitcoin after 3 years of holding. So they want to incentivize people to hold Bitcoin and not scalp it, which is weird. Why would they do that? Maybe they want to put it in their national bank as well. I don't know. But shout out to the Czechs, because when we go back to this part of the story, the Europeans are not. If we look at this green line here, the European bag since 2021 to today is only up fractionally. The US year-to-year supply is actually down a lot. So anyway, shout out to our European friends and what they're doing. All goodness, and hope they continue. This video has gone on long, way longer than I expected. I am exhausted. I haven't eaten today. I've been so busy. Anyway, let's talk about this. Nope, not talk about this. Wrong slide. Let's talk about not the Czechs, but scalp of the day. Mrs. 200. So I gave the Mrs. 200 moniker to, I don't know, I assumed we had Mr. 100, so I created Mrs. 200. And I think Mr. 100 and Mrs. 200 may be related, but this is fascinating. So on the 30th of January, Mrs. 200 sold 557 Bitcoin, and she sold them at 105,000. $882, nearly 106K. Crazy good deal to scalp. And they've got a big bag, by the way, so ignore that. But they sold 557, and then 3 days later, actually less than that, 2 days later, they bought 568 back for $93,679. Basically, Mrs. 200 made $7.5 million in 3 days. You can all that too. You all do that as well, but you need to have nearly 600 Bitcoin to be able to scalp. But the point is, whoever's trading these accounts, I don't know if it's a sovereign or whatever else, but they're moving large amounts of Bitcoin around, and they're scalping, like day trading. They're probably in a tax-free jurisdiction where they can enjoy that. But there are still naysayers. Another NOBel Guy predicts Bitcoin's going to zero. And I will not give his name oxygen, but yes, Bitcoin has had detractors since it's existed. So anyway, just want to share that to keep the news fair and balanced. And another bit of bad news, which could be construed as good news, the MACDaddy, which is the MACD, crossed bearish. Now, last time it crossed bearish, it took 6 months to break out, and boy did it break out. The point is, we've just crossed bearish again. And the question is, what happens next? So there was a lot of, how do I say, pent-up excitement around the presidential election, strategic Bitcoin reserves and stuff like that. And now here we are. They didn't get it. All the Bitcoin folks were like, we want US government to buy 1 million Bitcoin. They didn't do it. So the disappointment is buy the rumor, sell the news, and here we are. There's also tariff fears, which tariffs are actually very good for Bitcoin, but nobody realizes that. And here we are. But the point is, if this pattern repeats with the MACDaddy, there's 6 months between a crazy moment. So, are we at a top? I don't think so. Are we going to consolidate for a while? Maybe. Is Saylor going to come in and buy a truckload? Yes, he is. And let's look at Saylor and his stock, despite the dip. Okay, MicroStrategy is down from 550 down to like 330, 340. It's still up 2,718% since adopting the Bitcoin standard in August 2020. And this is my face, and I've been in it for a long time. Anyway, back to the charts. You don't need to see me because I am absolutely exhausted. But what MicroStrategy is also doing is a new era of corporate transparency. They are now publishing everything, and they've rebranded to a thing called Strategy B, which I mentioned they did a couple of weeks ago because I read real estate papers, and they said they are planning to brand a building Strategy B. So I knew they were going to go to this. Anyway, you saw that in the Octa like 2 weeks ago. But the point is now here, they share everything. How many Bitcoin they have, the NAV premium, Bitcoin price, the market cap, their debt, all that type of stuff. It's a dashboard that's real time on their website. So you can monitor exactly what MicroStrategy is doing in real time to find out how it's doing. So I think it's very good. I like transparency. And STRK, their new stock, their preferred stock that pays 10% dividend, is up $5 on a down day. I was going to buy this. I was going to buy a bunch of stuff today in full disclosure. I didn't, because I didn't like the macro. I didn't like the optimized trend charts. I didn't like the look of the market. I didn't feel good. So I sat quietly. Also, I didn't have internet for most of day too, which kept me out of the markets as well. So with that, I will close on a happy note. Meme of the day: you buy a Bitcoin to have more dollars. Okay, this is kind of a cool meme because it's actually, I don't watch TV or movies or anything, but I have watched Breaking Bad, and it is the best show ever made. Until I have a new best show ever made, by the way, rumored to be a beater of Breaking Bad, but I have to verify because I haven't seen it yet. But I give you a clue, it comes out of the UK. Anyhow, when I read this meme, I try and interpret it, okay? It's like, you buy a Bitcoin to have more dollars. Okay, because fiat is going to zero. I get that. That's the top part. The middle part, I buy Bitcoin to have less dollars. Okay, I interpret this as you transfer your fiat into Bitcoin so you don't own a lot of fiat, which is a melting ice cube. I get that too. That makes sense. And bottom text, we are not the same. I don't know the two approaches, but they're both the same. You buy Bitcoin, you swap your fiat. This highlights maybe varied reasons for investing in Bitcoin. Some invest for speculative reasons, some ideological, some practical. I don't know. But this meme made me think. But do not hold on to melting ice cubes for a long time. And I am overweight melting ice cubes right now, personally. So thank you all for coming. This will be part of the Bitcoin Only playlist you can follow. And thank you to the mods in the chat. I appreciate you all. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for being so late. Sopranos is awesome. Nothing beats Breaking Bad. I've seen The Sopranos, but Dexter is the same episode every single, it's like wash, rinse, repeat. Anyway, here we are, team. Thank you. And we do have a Dexter audience member too, who's really cool in the UK. Thank you all for coming. I don't even know how to stop this because it's a new setup. Thank you all. Good night. See you tomorrow.